Greetings, Wambui Bahati here. Wambui made it. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to bind your hat off your round loom so that you have a flat top hat, as opposed to the traditional way that I have demonstrated how to bind your hats off your loom that give you this pointy top right here. So you have a toboggan, ski cap, skull cap. I believe in the UK you call them woolies, do you? And generally people will put a pom-pom in the top, but it's a pointy hat. And it's a cute hat, but what I want to show you today is how to bind off the hat so that you have a flat top. What it's going to do is give you more variety in making your hats, and it's also, I believe, going to give you a little dressier hat. Whether you're a guy or a gal, I believe that the hat with the flat top just looks a little more fashionable, a little more classy, if you will. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. Now, I'm very conscious about not wanting to steal anybody's stuff. So I don't know if this way of binding off that I'm going to show you is in the public domain. I don't know where it trickled down from. I first saw it in a woman's blog. Okay, her name is Susan King, and the title of the blog post was Striped Rose Hat, and she had a striped hat, but the hat was finished off with a flat top. And she has explained that she saw someone on a YouTube channel called A Place for My Cards demonstrate the hat, and that's where she learned the technique. So I'm going to demonstrate that technique today for you. Now, besides your yarn and your loom and your pick, basically what you're going to do is you're just going to make a hat. If you have a hat started that you're about to finish off, that's great. You can make a hat that's brimless, no brim, any way that you want to make a hat, the way that you make your hats, then make a hat, because it's not until the last 3 rows of your hat that we're going to start binding off to make the flat top hat. So the only thing that I highly recommend that you do that maybe you don't do is you're going to need I use nail polish or some type of marker, because you're going to need to mark your pegs, because the binding off the last 3 rows, for the last 3 rows, what you're going to do is knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2 for 3 rows. Now, maybe you're better than I am, but what was happening to me was I kept losing track of whether I was supposed to be knitting or whether I was supposed to be purling. Now I know there is a way to tell by looking at the string and pulling and I just wanted to know where I was. If the phone rang, if I had to get up, or if my mind just wandered, I just found it a little frustrating that I just like, oh my, was I knitting? Was the last thing I did the knits or the purls? So what I did was I got me a loom that I had previously marked. So I knew that these, where I have the blue, is knit, where I have nothing is purl, blue, knit, purl. But once I did that, then that was half the battle, and then doing the bind off was not that difficult at all. And I'm sure that you're going to be able to do it, and you'll find it a lot of fun. And so I'm going to change the angle of my camera so that you can see my hands and see the loom close up. And I'll be back to demonstrate how to bind off your knit hat so that you have a flat top. Before we get started, I want to show you the hat that has a flat top. That's one of my favorite hats. So this is the hat, the closure that we're going for. And this is what it looks like from the side. It's a flat closure. And in another video, we'll talk about these ridges here that the hat has. But this is what we're going for. So let's do it. Okay, so you should have your hat ready to be finished off. It can be any stitches you want. It can have a brim. It can be brimless. Any way that you normally make your hats, go ahead and make your hat. And as you can see on my loom, I went ahead and I painted my pegs that I want to do knits on with red polish. So it's so that I have 2 reds, which means 2 knits, and then 2 blank, which means 2 purls, and then the reds. The red to me means to knit. And I strongly suggest that you come up with a system, either this one or one of your own, so that you can really enjoy the making or the closing the hat. It'll be a lot of fun. I think the fun using the stitches that we're going to do and the way we're going to do it, it's going to be a lot of fun, but I really think it's going to be easier when you don't have to think about, oh, should I be knitting or should I be purling now? Just makes it easier to see. So this is where I'm going to be starting. I'm going to be starting right here. So where you're going to start is where you would normally just be starting your next row if you were going to knit your next row. So that's the peg you're going to start on. Now, you may notice that on this loom, there is a peg here that doesn't have a partner. Because remember, I said we're going to do 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, and 2 purls all the way around. But I have one peg that doesn't have a partner. And that is okay. I want you to know that peg is fine. The reason why I have a single peg is because there are 31 pegs on this loom. So there's not an even number, which means that there's going to be 1 peg left over. So depending on how many pegs you have on your loom, you may end up with a single peg, a peg that doesn't have a partner. And that is okay. The only thing you need to remember is to treat that peg. Let's say I know that the reds are knit, so I'm going to be knitting here, and then when I come to this one, it's a purl. Just remember that it's always going to be a purl, just as these are always going to be knits, and these are always going to be purls for 3 rows. So that's what we're going to do. I also want to point out that in some previous videos, I referred to this peg as the lonely peg, and someone in my comments did let me know the proper name. This is the anchor peg. So thank you for that, anchor peg. Okay, so I'm going to be starting, again, you're going to be starting where you would normally be starting if you wanted to proceed with another row. And so what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to knit these 2. And so I'm going to just E-wrap those and then pull up and over and up and over, which is how we do our normal knits. But then we're going to come back and put the yarn in front of the 2 that we're going to purl, because the purl, we need our yarn to be at the bottom, because if you remember the purl stitch, we're going to go in from the top and pull that yarn up and over like that. We're going to take it off and put it back on and pull, and we're going to do the second one, which is right here, which means we're going to go in and pull that yarn up, and we're going to take it off, and we're going to put this loop back on. So that's how we purl. And then we're going to get back to our next 2, which they're red, so I know I'm going to be knitting those. So I'm going to do an E-wrap, E-wrap, and E-wrap, and then we're going to knit. So bottom over, bottom and over. We've done our 2 knits. Now we're ready to do our 2 purls. So we're going to bring this on the outside and hold the yarn so that it's at the bottom, because in the purl stitches we want to scoop under and pull that yarn up, and we're going to pull it off and put that loop on and tighten it like that. Not too tight, but just tighten it. And now we have 1 more to purl, and we can keep up with where we are if we've marked our pegs. So this one doesn't have red, so we know that's going to be a purl. So we're going to again scoop in there, get that, pull that one up into a loop, take it all the way off, and then put the loop back on that peg and tighten that peg. And now we come to a thread, so I know that that's a knit. So we're going to do a E-wrap and do an E-wrap, okay? And this is just your normal knitting, and we're going to up and over and up and over. And again, we're going to do the purls. Let's put it in front. Hold the yarn down below the top loops that are there. We're going to take our pick and we're going to go in there and we're going to get that yarn and scooch it up like that, and we're going to take it all the way off and put that loop back on, tighten it. We're going to do the second purl that's here. Again, we're going to take our pick and we're going to go down and get that, scrunch that yarn up. We're going to take this one off and put this loop back on. And now we're ready to knit. So I'm going to do a few more of these, and then I'm going to come back, and what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 rows of exactly what I'm doing now. And just remember that the ones that you're knitting, you want to knit for all 3 rows. And the ones that you are purling, you want to remember to purl for all 3 rows. So this is our first row. And I'm going to E-wrap, because we're knitting these 2. And then we're just going to do our regular knit where we go to the bottom and lift it over. And then we're going to bring this yarn to the bottom because we're going to get ready to purl, and we're just going to go underneath, scrunch this up. We're going to take this whole thing off and put that new loop on, and we're going to do the same for this purl stitch. You're going to go in like that, scrunch that loop up like that, and take that all the way off, and then put that new loop on. And then just kind of pull it lightly, not too tight, but just pull it lightly. And now we're ready to E-wrap. We're going to do our normal knitting stitch, up and over. I'm sorry, my pick got caught in my cord and shook the camera. And up and over. And now we're ready to purl. So we're going to just do this all around for 3 rows. So I'm just going to, for anybody that's not familiar with the purl, I'm going to do it 2 more times. I'm going to do 1 more set of knits and 1 more sets of purls before I come back to do the next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to, these are my knit, and so the normal way we do it, up and over, and now we're going to purl. So we're going to bring this yarn in front and below these 2 loops right there. For a purl, we're going to go in like that, and we're going to go over and scrunch that yarn up. We're going to take it off and put this loop on that peg and pull it lightly. We have 1 more purl that we're going to do. So we want the yarn at the bottom of the peg. We're going to take our pick, go underneath, and scrunch that loop up. We're going to take it all the way off and put that loop back on there like that and pull lightly. And now I see I have 2 red pegs, and of course that means I'm going to knit. So we're going to wrap around with the E-wrap, and then we're going to go up and over. And now I'm just going to do a few, and I'm going to be silent for a minute, which is not easy for me. Okay, that's really hard for me not to talk. So I'm going to I'm going to talk. I was going to stop, but at the same time, I really wanted to complete the first row with you so that you could see when I got to that peg that didn't have a partner, what was going to happen. So I did the E-wraps because we're going to knit these. And so we're going to do a regular knit, which is down, up and over, and up and over. And now we're going to purl, but this is where this one doesn't have a partner. So we're just going to purl that one and then start our second row doing the 2 knits. So I'm going to purl. I only have one. It doesn't have a partner. So I'm going to go ahead right here and purl this one. We're going to take that off and put the loop back on. We're doing a real purl stitch, pull it lightly. Now I'm ready to start my second row, and I'm going to start with the wraps. So these are the beginning 2 knits. We knitted these before, and we are knitting them now. And the same with the purls. Now we're at 2 purls. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do these 2 purls, and then, so what you're going to do is you're going to do this you're going to finish out the second row, and then you're going to do the exact same thing for a third row. So I'm going to go ahead and back on there. All right, and now our last 2 knits, off and over, up and over, and now we're back to our single peg on which we're going to purl. This is the peg that doesn't have a partner, and we're going to pull that off. Put that on there. Okay, so we've done the 3 rows. Okay, so here's where I think it gets really fun. We've done the 3 rows of the 2 knits, 2 purls, 2 knits, 2 purls. We did that 3 rounds. And now I think here comes the fun part. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your working yarn and you're going to wrap it around the perimeter of your loom. That's all you're going to do. You're not even going to do a stitch. How cool is that? You're just going to wrap it around the perimeter. Just on the outside, you're going to wrap it around the perimeter. That's all you're going to do. So just that simple. Yes, you're going to just wrap it. We're not doing any stitches. We're wrapping this around the perimeter of our loom. And we're going to do that 1 time. And then we're going to do it 2 times. And then maybe leave about 5 inches or so. And you're going to just take your scissors and guess what? We're going to cut it. So we cut the working yarn. So now all we have left to work with is the yarn that we had wrapped around the loom. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you are going to do nothing with the knit pegs right now. You're going to go behind the knit pegs, both of them. You're going to go behind them. You're going to take your pick and you're going to just pull this loose yarn up, but we're not even going to purl. We're going to just pull it up all the way through. We just pulled it through. That's all you're doing. So you're going to go to the next one that you would have purled or you did purl previously. And you're going to take your hook and you're going to pull the yarn, but you're not even going to purl it. You're just going to pull it all the way through. Now you're going to go behind the 2 purl pegs. You're going to go behind the purl pegs and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the pegs that we previously purled on. And we're going to take, and we're going to scrunch up that yarn as if we were going to purl, only we're just going to pull it all the way through. How easy is that? How fun is that? So we're going to do that again. You're going to take the second purl peg. We're going to scrunch up the yarn. And instead of making a purl stitch, we're just going to pull that yarn all the way through. And we're going to do that again. We're going to go all around, putting the yarn behind the knit pegs, bringing it in front of your purl pegs, and you're going to take your pick and you're going to pull, scrunch that yarn through, but you're just going to pull it all the way through. We're not even, it's just so easy. It's just so much fun. And so you're going to take and again, pull that one, and you just pull that loop all the way through. Go behind the two knit pegs. Bring the yarn in front of the purl pegs. We're going to go in as if we were going to purl. We're going to scooch up that yarn, but instead of purling, we're just going to pull it all the way through. And then we're going to go to our second purl peg. And again, we're going to scrunch it up and pull it all the way through. We're going to go behind, and we're going to do this all around. Go behind the knit pegs in front of the purl pegs. You're going to take your hook. You're going to scrunch that yarn through, but we're not going to purl it. We're just going to pull it all the way through. We're going to go to the second purl peg, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just pulling it all the way through. We're going to go behind the knit pegs. You're going to go behind the knit pegs in front of the purl pegs, and we're going to scrunch up that yarn, and we're just going to pull it all the way through. And we're going to do the same thing with the second purl peg we have, and we're just going to pull it all the way through. Now we're going to go behind the knit. Always go behind the knit pegs in front of the purl pegs. We're going to pretend like we're going to purl, but we're not. We're just going to pull that yarn all the way through, and we're going to do the same thing over at this second purl peg. We're just going to pull it all the way through. I love this. And now we're going to go behind the two knit pegs. And now we're back to that peg that doesn't have a partner. And so we're going to do like we're going to purl, but we're just going to pull it all the way through. Now, oh, I love this part. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to you're going to skip the knit pegs again. You're going to only deal with the purl pegs and the pegs that you just pulled the yarn through, all the purl pegs. You are going to just take them off. You're going to take the purl pegs. You're just taking them off. Purl. Is this a purl? You got to come off. Okay, we're going to skip the knit. We're going to go to the purl. These two purls, off. You're getting off the purls. But keep the knits. Keep the two knits. You're going to go over here to the two purls, and you take them off. And you're going to take it off. We want to keep our knits on, but we're taking the purls off. Okay, the knits, we're going to skip. Go to your purl pegs and take those both purl stitches off. Skip the knits, and we're going to take the purls off. Skip the knits, go to the purls, the ones that we just pulled the yarn through, and take those off. Skip the knits. Now that brings us back to our peg that doesn't have a partner, but it is a purl peg. So it's got to come off. Take that one off. All right, now what you're going to do is you're going to take that working yarn and you're going to just pull it ever so lightly. So just pull it, not too hard, but we want to pull it a little bit like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we only have our knit pegs left with loops on them. So here's how it looks. So we have only our knit pegs left. So what we're going to do with this yarn is what we previously did with the knit pegs. We're going to go, and I'm going to start over here. We're going to now go to every peg that has a knit, which are the only ones that are left. We're going to take our peg and we're going to act like we're going to purl, and we're going to pull that up, but we're just going to pull it all the way through. And we're going to do the same for every peg now that is left. We're just going to scrunch it through. We're going to just, every peg that's left, because the only pegs that are left are the knit ones. So we're going to take every peg, go to every peg that is left, and just pull the yarn through. Every peg that's left, you're going to go to it, and you're going to do as if you're doing the beginning of a purl, because you want to put your pick down inside the loop, and then you're going to scrunch the yarn up, and you're going to pull it all the way through. And then the one beside it, you're going to pull that all the way through. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. We're just pulling it all the way through. And yes, that yarn is kind of like laying on the outside of the loom, because we're working on the outside, and we're just going to keep that yarn going on the outside. We're going to go over and scrunch it up and pull it all the way through. And we're going to do the same for the next two. We're going to take this, scrunch it up, and we're just going to pull that yarn through. Every peg that's left now, we're just going to do the same thing, and we're going to keep that yarn running around like that. And we're going to take this and we're going to scrunch it, but we're not knitting or purling. We're just pulling the yarn through. And then we're going to do the same here. We're going to pull the yarn through. And now, yeah, we got these two right here. We're going to pull the yarn through. These two right here. Okay, we've done that. And now we have these two right here. And again, we're going to act like we were about to purl, but we're not. We're just going to scrunch the yarn up and pull it all the way through. And I believe this is the last one. We're going to scrunch that yarn up and pull it through. Okay, now we're going to do just like we did before with the purl pegs. We're going to go where we started. Going to go over here now to our knits. Now the only thing left, of course, are the knits. So we're going to just take the knits off. Just take the knits off. Take the knits off. Just take them off. Every loop should be coming off now. Everything is coming off. Take all of these off. Everything is coming off. Just lift them up and take them off. Lift them up and take them off. Take it off, take it off. Everything's coming off, off, off. And now, until there's nothing left on the loom. And so you're going to take this working yarn. Now what you're going to do is you're going to turn your hat inside out. And you're going to find that working yarn that we were, all right. And now what you want to do, okay, so here's how it should look right now. Okay, this is the inside. Okay, so you want to gently pull, but you want to make sure that you're getting it from over here. You're going to be pulling here, but you want to make sure that you're getting the yarn from over here. So you want to pull so that you're also pulling and pulling, and you want to pull and just kind of keep pulling it tight and then you pull it as tight and pull as tight. And when you think you've pulled as much as you can, you pull a little bit more. You pull it tight. And then what you want to do is I want to cut this string. And where's my needle? You want to take your darning needle, your plastic needle. Now it's about, you're going to be doing the same thing that you do when you close your regular hats. You're going to thread your needle and just make sure it's pulled really, really tight, okay? And then you're just going to make it so it stays without you having to hold it. And and you want to be careful, trying to keep the stitches, of course, on the inside as always, so that you don't have any stitches showing on the outside once you turn it inside out. So, and you can, how to hide your yarn string and everything. Okay, so are you ready to see? So we're going to turn it over. Let's see what we have. And so there we have our flat top hat. And so there we have our flat knit hat. So, okay, I hope you enjoy your flat top hats. Questions, concerns, let me know. Until next time, peace.